हेमादीनि ततस्ततः पर्यटन्ति नरेष्वेवं जीवो योनिषु कर्तृषु. Word to word translation. Yatha, just as vastuni, commodities, panyani, meant for trading, hema adini, such as gold, tataha tataha, from here to there, paryadanti, move about, nareshu, among men, evam, in this way, jivaha, the living entity, yonishu, in different species of life, kartrushu, in different material fathers. Translation: just as gold and other commodities are continually transferred from one place to another in due course of purchase and sale, so the living entity, as a result of his fruitive activities, wanders throughout the entire universe, being injected into various bodies in different species of life by one kind of father after another. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. It has already been explained that Chitraketu's son was his enemy in a past life and had now appeared as his son just to give him more severe pain. Indeed, the untimely death of the son caused severe lamentation for the father. One may put forward the argument, if the king's son was his enemy, how could the king have so much of affection for him? In answer, the example is given that when someone's wealth falls into the hands of his enemy, the money becomes the enemy's friend. Then the enemy can use it for his own purposes. Indeed, he can even use it to harm its previous owner. Therefore, the money belongs neither to the one party nor to the other. The money is always money. But in different situations, it can be used as an enemy or a friend. As explained in Bhagavad Gita, it is not by any father or mother that the living entity is given his birth. The living entity is completely separate identity from the so-called father and mother. By the laws of nature, the living entity is forced to enter the semen of a father and be injected into womb of the mother. He is not in control of selecting what kind of father he will accept. Prakritehe kriyamanani. The laws of nature force him to go to different fathers and mothers, just like a consumer commodity that is purchased and sold. Therefore, the so-called relationship of father and son is an arrangement of Prakriti or nature. It has no meaning, and therefore it is called illusion. The same living entity sometimes takes shelter of an animal father and mother, and sometimes a human father and mother. Sometimes he accepts a father and mother among the birds. Sometimes he accepts a demigod father and mother. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore says, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasad Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. Whereas life after life, by the laws of nature, the living entity wanders throughout the entire universe in different planets and different species of life. Somehow or other, if he is fortunate enough, he comes in touch with a devotee who reforms his entire life. Then the living entity goes home, back to Godhead. Therefore it is said, Janme janme sabe pita mata pai Krishna Guru nahi mile bhaja Hari e. In the transmigration of the soul through different bodies, everyone in every form of life, be it human, animal, tree or demigod, gets a father and mother. There is not very difficult. The difficulty is to obtain a bona fide spiritual master and Krishna. Therefore, the duty of a human being is to capture the opportunity to come in touch with Krishna's representative, the bona fide spiritual master. Under the guidance of the spiritual master, the spiritual father, one can return home back to Godhead. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Patakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunadhanyutam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanyutamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchagalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bhutair Mahatbha Ye Ima Puro Vibhu Nirmaya Shete Yadamusha Purusha Bhungte Gunan Shodasha Shodagatmaka Solang Krishishta Bhagavan Vacham Sime Hare Krishna Hare Krishna. Here, the Jiva, the living entity who came back to life, continues to speak to Chitraketu Maharaj. And here, this Jiva, the living entity, is giving a profound analogy to explain the wandering of the living entity. He gives the example, just as gold or other commodities are continuously transferred from one place to another. Similarly, the living entity is going from one womb to the next. It's a reality. The currencies or the coins that we have, how long does it stay with us? Very short period in time. In between, we give to someone, we buy something, it is gone away from us. If it's Australian currency, just within this country we can say. It can go anywhere. Is it within our control? No, it is completely beyond our control. That is the nature of gold or money. It is by nature chanchala. Chanchala means flickering. Money or Lakshmi is the energy of the Supreme Lord. Okay, as originally she is Lakshmi Devi. However, she is manifesting as this currencies or gold as chanchala, as wealth. And they are wandering everywhere beyond our control. Why? The opulence, the wealth has the nature of not staying at one place, because as the energy of Lakshmi Devi, as the reflection of Lakshmi Devi, the wealth wants only to be served for Krishna's purposes. So she is completely attached to Krishna, to Narayan, and she doesn't want to be served in any other capacity. And so she is transcendentally flickering. That's why she is Chanchala Lakshmi, transcendentally flickering. So it is actually a spiritual quality of being Chanchala. So it is not exactly the Chanchala or the flickering nature of our mind. Chanchala Mihimana Krishna. That is a different quality. That is material quality of the mind. But this Chanchala nature of Lakshmi Devi is her spiritual quality. So that she is so eager to serve Krishna, so she doesn't want to stay in this material world. And she doesn't want to be used in material purposes. So she is there everywhere. That's why it's mentioned. When we give money through the tip of the finger, showing that she always stays the tip of the finger because it will be given. She will not stay at any place. So it is beyond our control, and it can be apparently random and unpredictable. So this is the nature of money, and this example is used here by the jiva, who is just a baby boy, to explain the movements of the living entities throughout this universe. And then, it's not just the money or hemadini, but also vastuni, which are used for panyani. Panyani means for the trade. How the commodities are used for the trade. It can go anywhere. Here I have an iPhone in front of me. So certain parts are from America. Very few parts from America. They're proprietary parts. Some chipset, all those from Japan. Some other parts from Korea, Taiwan. Some metals from Mongolia. And some material from Europe. And everything is assembled in China. And then everything is assembled in China, and they are being shipped everywhere in the world. We are getting in Australia, you go to New Zealand, you go to India, you go to Europe, you go to South America, everywhere it is shipped. Can you see? So many different commodities are coming together in one place, then it is again dispersed. And here we are carrying a phone, using here, there, and it is moving everywhere. So this is how the commodities are being transported. It is there everywhere, it is moving everywhere, as it is mentioned here in this verse, tataha tataha, from here to there. Even the food what we are eating, is that all locally produced? No way. It is coming from all around the world. Some from India, some from Asia, some from Europe, some from America, some from New Zealand, right? Some from South America. So whatever we are taking, it is coming from everywhere. Even in this room, when you think the objects we have in this room, it is from everywhere. So can you see? This is how the commodities are being transported all around the world. And now this jiva, very powerful jiva if you think about, we'll explain about this jiva later, but this jiva is preaching to one of his fathers, who is Chitraketu Maharaj, that similarly, I travel everywhere. I have been traveling everywhere. So traveling is a big thing in this world, right? Traveling is a big industry, and tourism is a big industry. People want to travel everywhere. And some people, as youngsters, they want to travel. After the school, maybe before starting the uni, they want to travel. And after 1 year of uni, they want to travel, take a break. And some people, after the uni, before entering the workforce, they want to travel. It doesn't stop there. Later, even after retirement, as people say, this is how the holiday actually starts, right? When after retirement, okay, we have some enough bank balance, we can travel the world. After 60, after 65, many times we see flights full of old people. Tourism, you can see flights from Singapore coming here, full of old travelers. This reminds me of one of my devotee friends. He wanted to be out of the association of devotees for some time. He wanted a break. So he left the association of the devotees. And he was very happy to leave the association of the devotees. Unfortunate. And he got a job in a ship to travel through Caribbeans. Very attractive. He was very excited. And he was a photographer. He thought, this is the greatest opportunity that ever I got. Thanks for chanting. Now I can take a break. Thanks for the association. Now I can take a break. I can be my own. I can do what I want to do. And he traveled. In his travel, he was frustrated so much. Why was he frustrated? It was full of old people, only old people, because only they could afford such a travel for a month or two through the Caribbeans, long travel. And his job was to click photos of these old people all the time. And they will pause, he has to click a photo. They will pause the other direction, he has to take a photo. So think about that. After a week, he was feeling, okay, nice Caribbeans, but all the time photos. The material desires are not going to diminish. So the old people, they want photos in all different strange poses. And he was just keep doing. After a month, he was completely frustrated. And the ship was, stationed at one port. And he went to the beach and he's just walking. And he was calling out for Krishna. Can you imagine? He was calling out for Krishna. I had enough of this. I wanted to take a break. I got the break. I had enough. And as he was walking, one boy in Caribbeans, not a devotee, one boy came and gave him a Prabhupada's books in his hand. He was not a devotee, a small book. Forgot the title of the book, but gave the book. And then he thought, okay, now I have to start chanting. This is direct indication from Srila Prabhupada, Krishna, and the devotees. I had to start chanting. So this is how it is. So wandering is not a big deal. Traveling is not a big deal. We have traveled enough. Just like the commodities. We have traveled enough. Even consider these bodies. What is it made of? It has the commodities from all around this world. Because we are eating so many things. And the soul has gone through all different kinds of species. So here, Srila Prabhupada in his purport, bring this to another dimension. Don't think about just one planet Earth, but get this higher perspective. We were wandering throughout different universes, not just different planets and different universes. That's why it's mentioned here. Look, Brahmanda Brahmite Kon. In Brahmanda, in one universe, we have been traveling through different planets and different species within those planets. So we have already done travel. Don't think that we haven't done travel. We have enough traveled. We have enough traveled. So don't think traveling as an option, okay, an entertainment. And we were not satisfied. We were not satisfied in the heavenly planet, in the demigod body. The body which doesn't get old, no disease. Death is after a prolonged time. Still we were not satisfied. Think about that. We were not satisfied in the demigod body. We were not satisfied in a wealthy person's body. We were wealthy at one point because we had millions of life. Definitely we had gone through a very wealthy lifestyle. We were beautiful, or now we are beautiful. Whatever, we have gone through everything. Still, we are not satisfied. And that's why Prabhupada says, okay, this is the time. This is the time. Here, Prabhupada quotes this verse, even though he doesn't specifically quote the verse, but he paraphrases the verse. In the third canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Kapiladev's instruction. Kapiladev's instruction, one chapter is titled Kapiladev's instructions on the movements of the living entities. The chapter is entitled The Movement of the Living Entities, or the Travel of the Living Entities. That's what we can see in this purport. 331.1. Karmana daiva netrena jantur dehopapattaye striya pravishta udaram pumso retaganashreha. Very famous verse by Kamiladev. It's not a big deal. Karmana, on what capacity we travel? What is the credit for travel? What is the ticket? What is the cost of the ticket? Two things are there. Karmana and daiva netrena. What is the cost? If you want a body, you need to have the right karma. You need to have the right karma. Then only you can get a body. According to karma, we get a body. That is the cash. You want to buy the ticket? Okay, you need to have the money. What is the money? Karma. According to karma, you get a body. Karmana daiva netrena. and the superior arrangement, and it has to be ordained, sanctioned by the Supreme Lord or his agencies like the demigods. Then one gets the body. Striya pravishta udaram pumso retakanashreha. From the semen, enter the womb of the mother, and then the body is developed. So this is the arrangement, and it is the karmic pattern. And so why such an analogy is given, or analogies are given in this section? What we are talking about. So just like the commodities are everywhere, just like money is flowing everywhere, similarly we can be anywhere in due course of time. And so, what is the message? What is the message here? Why the jiva, dead jiva, who is now alive, making this point? What is the purpose? Huh? To enjoy? Why? Jiva is not asking Chitraketu to enjoy. Exactly, to end the cycle. But specifically what the jiva is doing now, by talking about the insignificance of this lifetime. Ultimately come to the platform of devotional service, but before, exactly to instill detachment in Chitraketu Maharaj. In the previous verse, yesterday's verse, it was about, the example was given, analogy was given about a river. In the river, two sticks can come together and they can part. Similarly here, the commodities can come together and they can disintegrate, they can go anywhere. To instill detachment in Chitraketu Maharaj, Jiva spoke in this way. That's all. And now, who is this? Here it is mentioned, apparently it looks like the son of Chitraketu Maharaj was his enemy, because only enemy can instill so much of pain. So the enemy has apparently come in the form of his son. And Prabhupada explains this based on the analogy of gold. Gold, you can possess the gold, but the same gold can be with someone else after some time. Or you can have the money, after some time it's not your money. Even your enemy can have your money, right? Many times you have property, some people they want to snatch that property. It happens in this world all the time. You may be your enemy, he gets all the property, he's trying to enjoy. And he can use that money against the previous proprietor. So this is this world. And so the money, wealth or commodity, that in itself is not good or bad, but how it is being used determines whether it is good or bad. So one is placed in a situation according to one's karma. So even one's enemy can come as one's child and give pain. A classic example we can hear in Mahabharata. When Duryodhana was born, all the great sages, they understood who is this person. They understood that this person is going to ruin the entire Kuru dynasty. He is going to cause such a havoc to the entire family. Thus, they advised Dhritarashtra, the best thing that you can do, just take him to the forest, kill him. Just kill him. Because that will avoid so many deaths. So it is good to do that. But of course, Dhritarashtra was so much attached that because of him, what happened? The Kurus, the Dhritarashtra's son, they all lost the kingdom. They all got killed. They did so much against the great Vaishnavas, the pure devotees. They became inimical to great devotees and Krishna. So see, such a havoc. So this is how sometimes enemy can come into our family and give lot of pain. So it's a reality. Now here, I had to bring another very important point. Now, in this conversation, when Jiva speaks, there is a lot of detachment that get instilled in the heart of Chitraketu Maharaj and his millions of queens. Isn't it amazing? As the Jiva is speaking, it was a very powerful preaching if you think about it. millions of people became devotees. Not one or two, millions of people became devotees when a child started speaking this philosophy. So here, we will analyze this point. One, if we are speaking philosophy, we have to speak based on our realizations, our understanding. So we cannot just speak on the topmost standard. We have to speak on our own realization. That is very important. Of course, we repeat Shastra, but we make sure that we don't touch the most highest topics, which is beyond our capacity to speak. For example, the confidential aspects from the 10th canto or any other cantos. Even this topic is very advanced. So we speak according to our standard, our understanding. Then it can become powerful. Otherwise, it has no impact. When Srila Prabhupada spoke few words, they had great impact. How many minutes did he speak? A lecture generally? 20 minutes, 25 minutes. That's it. His lectures were not very long. I have already spoken 20 minutes. I haven't even reached half of it. Okay? So, Prabhupada only spoke 20 minutes, 25 minutes, but it was so powerful because he was speaking from the platform of complete realization. So, ultimately, realization matters. That's why Shukadeva Goswami spoke Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. He was chosen as a speaker of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam because of his realization, because of his topmost realization, even in front of his father, Vyasadeva. He was more realized than his own father. So that's why he was allowed to speak. So the ultimate qualification to speak is realization, and realization is reflected in one's action. It's a simple thing. It's not we have to hide in the cupboard. What we do, that is observable for everyone. And that shows, okay, one is realized or not. What is acting, what one is doing according to one's realization. So one has to speak according to realization. One time, Radhanath Maharaj, he made a statement. He corrected one of his brahmachari disciples because he was floating lot of Radha Krishna pastimes and different pastimes spoken by Radha Govinda Maharaj in his lectures. In all his lectures, there will be some pastime picked from Radha Govinda Maharaj's lectures. So Maharaj told, Radha Govinda Maharaj is speaking based on very high realization. He is a very realized soul. So you cannot just float those pastimes in our lectures here and there, just to spice it up, to get some attention of the audience. We can't do that. So one can speak according to one's standard. For example, can one speak Krishna's pastime? Certainly one can. How can one do that? First study Bhagavatam from first canto onwards. And if you want to deeply study 10th canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, first deeply study first canto, then second canto. Like that progressively you go. When you reach 10th canto, you can study more on pastimes of Krishna. There is no problem with that. So one can spend years in studying, then one may know. Then it is not just a matter of study, but that studies have to be reflected in one's practical devotion service. Then it is fine. One can speak different pastimes according to the audience. In first canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Srila Prabhupada defines what is realization. Realization means one can speak according to time, place and circumstances. That is realization, because one has the knowledge, one has the realization, so one can speak, one can see the audience and one can speak accordingly. If it's not accompanied with devotion service, it doesn't have any meaning. It becomes just like lecturers. We are not Bhagavatam, just lecturers. Lecturers don't have to live a life accordingly, but they have to just speak. But that is not our position. Now, I am bringing this point. How come this jiva had such a potency that Chitraketu Maharaj became completely detached and he was ready for devotion service? His queen was ready for devotion service, and millions of other queens, even those who poisoned the child and killed, they felt ashamed, they atoned, and they became devotees. How come this jiva, just a young boy who died and now came back to life, had such immense potency? Any idea? At least some answer you can give. At least some direction you can flow. Okay, he was no longer in the body. He was detached.
He was kind of experienced. He has felt everything like if somebody is God.
But the question is, the jiva died, not in the body. Now the body is gone. But how he became so realized immediately? Okay, that is a good direction. Narada Muni's association. That we had to acknowledge first of all. Because Narada Muni is instructing and the jiva is speaking in front of Narada Muni. So wait here. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he gives a very interesting point. He says that actually the jiva was not speaking. Who was speaking? Narada Muni entered the body of the jiva and Narada Muni started speaking. In the beginning verses, not this verse, the beginning verses, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives this commentary. He explains, actually Narada Muni was speaking through jiva. So Narada Muni entered the body and he started speaking. Can you imagine the potency of Narada Muni now? Because Narada Muni was so powerful, there was profound impact in his preaching. Chitraketu Maharaj got converted, his wives got converted, millions of them, and all of them became devotees all of a sudden. In few verses, there are not many verses, we'll keep hearing these verses. In the few verses, as they listened, there was such an impact. Because Narada Muni was speaking from the topmost realized platform. We are also discussing these things. What happened? Nothing is, something is happening to me, but not profound impact. Because I am not so qualified. So this is the situation. And if there is some impact in you, that is your qualification. It's not my qualification. So this is the reality. This is the reality. See the power of Narada Muni. So Narada Muni's realization is coming through this jiva, who is apparently dead and has come to life. And so all the queens repented, those who killed the child, and they also atoned and they also took up devotional service. Now, so this is a very important point about hearing from qualification. I was sitting in the Prasadam hall just a few days back. One devotee, who's a family man, sat next to me and asked a question. I am regularly hearing Bhagavatam, this section, and this is talking about strong detachment. Nobody is father, nobody is mother, nobody is child. We are coming together for some time and everyone is going. And he's telling, it is so difficult to realize how can I practice this? It's a big question, right? And especially khichdi is in my mouth. And suddenly somebody is asking, how can I practice this? I know that he has a child and he has a wife. And how can I practice this? That nobody is your mother, nobody is your father, we are in relationship coming and going. And I am in the khichdi and I am, thinking, what to tell. So I told him, look, surely we had to practice detachment. We had to practice detachment. How we practice detachment? Not by practicing detachment. We are not practicing detachment by practicing detachment. So this is a very important point. This is a point from Nectar Devotion. When you study Nectar Devotion, you will hear this point. And it's a very important point. Detachment is not an anga of bhakti. Renunciation is not an anga of bhakti or not a limb of devotional service. No one is telling you have to be detached first to practice devotional service. It is a result of devotional service. So if someone asks, how can I practice detachment? We tell how to practice bhakti. So I told him, look, you are already hearing Bhagavatam, and he said, I am trying to read some sections of Bhagavatam. I said, this is very good. I told him, since you are already reading Bhagavatam, and I know that he owns a business, you are your own boss. So if you are unable to read first canto of Bhagavatam, you start from first canto of Bhagavatam, you don't have time at home, if you are busy after coming home, take some time at work, because you are your own boss, you have your own business. I asked him, can you take 15-20 minutes off in between, or half an hour, in between, any time? Can you read? He said, yeah, easily I can do that. Okay, that is your practice of detachment. Take some time off and read Bhagavatam. Because he has to read Bhagavatam. He wants to get initiated. I said, okay, start reading Bhagavatam. And he's already reading the same section. That said, that's very good. You start from first canto. So to get initiated anyway, you have to read first canto of Bhagavatam. So this is how we can practice detachment, by engaging oneself in devotional service. He was already engaged in practical devotional service. So I told, okay, you are already doing service regularly in the temple. Now you have to read. So that is your detachment. So we cannot tell, okay, now forget about your wife, forget about your child. That is not necessary. They are devotees. it is detachment to engage them in Krishna service. It's not easy, right? It's not easy to help family grow in Krishna consciousness. It takes a lot of work. So that is his detachment. So engaging in devotional service. So we had to have some tangible goals. Otherwise, this philosophy can look outlandish. It can look, not for me. But it is for me. How can I practice detachment? By doing devotional service in our capacity. And we can do that all the time. How can I improve my devotional service? We can do that. Where am I lacking in my devotional service? We can make a note. And one can track how it is going. Because many of you are working, many of you know how to track the projects, different milestones and how it is progressing. People do all these kind of things. Similarly, we can apply the same principle in devotion service. Now, let's see the genius of Narada Muni. Because Narada Muni prepares his audience before he gives the transcendental knowledge. This is a very important point to be understood. Narada Muni prepares, he makes sure there is a fertile ground before he actually gives transcendental knowledge. Here we can see that Chitraketu Maharaj was lamenting, all his wives were lamenting, and they couldn't hear transcendental knowledge even though Angiram Rishi was there beforehand. He was not ready to listen. So Narada Muni enacted this drama so that now Chitraketu Maharaj is ready to listen. He will understand. Otherwise, any philosophy can come, nothing will happen. We all have that experience, right? Even at the beginning of our Krishna consciousness and now as well. Some devotees preach to us, give some advice, nothing goes inside. Does that happen? Then later, I have this experience, later after many years, oh, that devotee was actually preaching this to me. So far I didn't understand. It took time to understand, okay, that was actually a right message. Because one has to be ready to hear. Till then, no impact. We can give the whole Bhagavatam class, no effect. I remember some words of my spiritual master. It took a few years for me to actually register what he told me. Oh, now it actually makes sense. So it can take time for us to register certain things. So Narada Muni is very good to cultivate the land before sowing the seed. Here, he prepared Chitraketu Maharaj and his queens. In case of Prajina Barhi, what did he do? He was very attached to fruitive activities, animal sacrifices. What did he do to Prajina Barhi in 4th canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam? Huh? Allegorical story of King Puranjana. He told the allegorical story of King Puranjana so that he can understand, make the fertile ground and then sow the seed. And it was elaborate. If you see Puranjana pastime, it was very elaborate. But in the beginning of 6th canto, Narada Muni preaches to whom? You remember who he preaches to? To the sons of? No. Pracheta is preaching 4th canto, right? Daksha, right? Daksha, sons of Daksha. Beginning of 6th canto, right? Dakshas. Haryashwas. Right? Yeah, correct? Right? So he preaches. There, he doesn't get into so much of details. What does he say? He gives a very cryptic analogy. If we read the analogy, we will not understand anything. But they heard the analogy and understood, okay, there is no point entering family life. We will take sannyas, perfect life, and go back home, back to Godhead. And to their brothers, what did Narada Muni do? He simply told, this is the path chosen by your brothers, so you also follow the path. So he can see who is ready and then give the message accordingly. So this is a very important principle we can use in our own preaching. Some people, they may not be ready for Bhagavad Gita class. If they can come, they can sit. But some people may have to go through some time of nice prasadam. Some prasadam purification has to happen. They are not even interested in anything else. Some people, prasadam and kirtan may have to go for some time. And then when they hear, they understand. So we need to understand where our audience is at. And accordingly we can give. So preaching is not a blanket statement. Preaching is not mass production or like a cookie cutter or a factory production, okay, this batch, okay, one batch of devotees, another batch of devotees. It may not happen because different jivas are in different stages of life. We have to accept the reality. If you have a preaching program, if you are running a Bhakti Vriksha or any other Western outreach, we can see different people are in different levels. We cannot say everyone, so he is chanting 16 rounds, so you also have to chant 16 rounds. It may not happen. He is doing so much of service, you also have to do. It may not happen. So as a preacher, we need to understand that different people are in different stages of life, different stages of spiritual progression. Another classic example comes to my mind. Jadabharat. Jadabharat, when he was preaching to Maharaj Rahugana, what did he preach? What did he speak first? Jadabharat is a great devotee. He is practicing Bhakti Yoga. But what did he preach first? Can anyone remember the previous canto? Yeah, body, soul, but just like a jnani. As a jnani, he spoke. Why? Because Rahugana himself was like a jnani. He had appreciation for intellectual understanding. Sankhya kind of presentation. And to impress and to submit King Rahugana, first Jadabharat spoke Jnana, Sankhya level, completely analytical philosophy, analyzing the material body, different material elements. He was telling, you say that I am carrying you, but I am not really carrying you. Who you think as the carrier of your palanquin is sometimes thin, sometimes fat, sometimes is in this body, sometimes is in the other body. In this way, he gives full analytical knowledge. Then when Rahugana hears this, Rahugana understood, I am not speaking to an ordinary person. Immediately he jumped from the palanquin and fell flat at the feet of Jadabharat. Then asked, please explain, I cannot understand anything. Then he explained the forest of material enjoyment. Again an analogy and then the elaboration. And finally he spoke bhakti. Can you see how he was preparing King Rahugana? And of course, he was qualified. So he straight away accepted Jadabharat as a spiritual master. And after this conversation was over, did Jadabharat stay back? Okay, let me go to the kingdom, let me have my ashram, let me be supported by you. No, he just walked away. That's it. Here, Shukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit, what happened? Shukadeva Goswami spoke the entire Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, and naturally we think that Shukadeva Goswami should stay till Maharaj Parikshit goes back home, back to Godhead, right? Did he do that? No. Shukadeva Goswami, I have spoken everything. Do you have any final questions? Maharaj Parikshit said, no, I don't have any questions. He just got up, turned back and walked away. So these are the spiritual masters. So they gave what they need and they understood the disciple is qualified and then they left. So this we can learn from this verse. Now I have to speak to you something very important. Now I am going to speak to you about something very practical. And all of you can do. So this is about a special campaign that is happening worldwide in ISKCON. That is called Bhadra campaign. Bhadra campaign is about distributing Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Bhadra Purnima is 10th of September, which is next, not this Saturday, next Saturday. Bhadra Purnima. So Bhagavatam itself, in the 12th canto, it is mentioned that on that Bhadra Purnima, if one can give Bhagavatam, it is highly beneficial. It's mentioned. It is very, very beneficial. One can distribute Bhagavatam in all days and leading up to Bhadra Purnima. So if you are distributing Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, all of your names will be collected and we will give your name to the yajna that's happening in Naimisharanya, the original Naimisharanya, where Bhagavatam was spoken. And there is ISKCON devotees are performing a special yajna, and everyone's names will be offered who is taking part in this Sankirtan yajna. So that is Bhadra Purnima. So this worldwide campaign is already started from Gaura Purnima till Bhadra Purnima. So there is something very special about worldwide campaign, because now ISKCON as a family is coming together and trying to please Srila Prabhupada by distributing Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And this is an initiative by His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu. So I'll give you some updates on this. In 2018, it was started with about 7,000 or so Bhagavatam sets distributed worldwide during this Bhadra campaign. Then in 2019, it didn't improve much, it was reduced, about 6,500. Then this Bhadra campaign picked up during the pandemic. In 2020, it reached how many numbers? 24,185 Bhagavatams were distributed worldwide. Okay, so Vaisheshika Prabhu was quoting Mahatma Prabhu. You know Mahatma Prabhu, Prabhu's disciple. So Mahatma Prabhu says that devotees are known for making impossible possible. So 24,000 sets of Bhagavatam during the Bhadra campaign was unimaginable so far. And during pandemic and many parts of the world were locked down, we did together about 24,000 Bhagavatams. And 2021, that is last year, it was increased to 35,342. About 35,000 Bhagavatam sets during the 6 months from Gaura Purnima till Bhadra Purnima, which is coming Saturday, 10th of September. Now, Vaisheshika Prabhu told, we have a bigger plan. Our plan is, in 5 years' time, we had to prepare ourselves to distribute 100,000 Śrīmad Bhāgavatams in 6 months, worldwide, 100K Bhāgavatams. For that, his formula is very systematic, 23% increase every year. So, this year, I'll tell you our target. What is our target? Worldwide target is 43,000 Śrīmad Bhāgavatam sets. Hare Bol. Okay. So then we have to do our job, right? We have about 10 days, and this is actually 10 days are enough to convince someone, okay? We don't need more days. This is good enough to distribute Bhagavatam. For that, I will make a few statements that I will quote from His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, Gopal Krishna Maharaj, Devamurta Swami Maharaj, Vaisheshika Prabhu, Jagatarini Mataji, so many devotees, they all spoke about this Bhadra campaign. They all encouraged the devotees, all the devotees, to distribute Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So I will make a few points from His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. Maharaj said that you have to distribute Bhagavatam, and Bhagavatam has to be there in every home, because then Yamaraj will not visit that home. He said this is the first statement. Yamaraj will not be there. Yamaraj cannot go to that home. If you are distributing Bhagavatam, if Bhagavatam is at one place, then Yamaraj cannot go there. They cannot go to hell. So this is a very important point. And Maharaj was asking everyone who wants to see Yamaraj, please raise your hand. Of course, no one was raising the hand. So, okay, then you have Bhagavatam and you distribute Bhagavatam. And Maharaj made a very interesting point that Arjuna was put into illusion so that Bhagavad Gita could be spoken. Similarly, Maharaj Parikshit accepted death. He could have easily avoided death, but he accepted death so that Bhagavatam could be spoken. So he sacrificed his life for Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So we can see Srila Prabhupada spent his entire life to write Bhagavatam. Of course, in his later years. But after that, he spent all his time in writing Bhagavatam. All the nights. Hours together writing Bhagavatam. Translating and commenting on Bhagavatam. So we have this treasure of Bhagavatam. And so we can distribute Bhagavatam. We can sponsor Bhagavatam. We can encourage others to distribute Bhagavatam. Somehow or other, we need to distribute this Bhagavatam for the Bhadra campaign. And you know what is our target? Our target is about 130 at least. We can go more, of course. And we are at the mark of 100 at this point. Okay? We are at the mark of 100. So we need devotees to distribute Bhagavatam in coming 10 days so that we can at least get 30 more Bhagavatam sets distributed. At least. More is better. If we can make it 150, well and good. Done a great job. But at least 30 more. So you think who you can give Bhagavatam. Think about it. And you can encourage others to distribute Bhagavatam. Because the name of this campaign, the Bhadra campaign has a special name this year. Save the earth now. And Jagataka Maharaj told, yes, this is the right title. Bhagavatam can save this world. That's why we are reading and studying and discussing Bhagavatam. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. And for that, we need Bhagavatams to be distributed. Prabhupada wanted all his books in all the houses. So now, Vaisheshika Prabhu made a very interesting statement. Distributing Bhagavatam or reading Bhagavatam, it's not our hobby, this is our life. And so, he said, we had to take it seriously because we are the delegated people. Because we know about Bhagavatam, we are in the temple, we know about it. So we have to encourage others to buy Bhagavatam. And this time, as you know, the price has been dropped so much. I remember nearly 20 years back, I bought my first copy of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. I paid $600. I paid $600. I was studying. So I told the devotee who was preaching to me, when I get my first stipend, I will buy Bhagavatam. So I got my first stipend for my studies. And from that, I gave $600 and I got my first copy of Bhagavatam. So now, generally, things get expensive as time progresses, right? You talk about, houses, computer, mobile phone, vegetables, things are getting expensive. But Bhagavatam is getting cheaper. Last year, after that, I bought for $600. Over the years, it became $500. Still is actually cheaper. 18 volumes, you can see, these are not small books. 18 volumes, $600. So how much per volume? 18. 600 divided by 18. How much? Sorry, 500 divided by 18. 30 or maybe 28. Yeah? It's 30? Somebody can calculate and tell me. So it is, even if it is $30, very cheap, isn't it? A book like this, at least $40 to $50 if you go to a bookshop, it will cost. Hardbound, big books. And now, the leaders in ISKCON contemplated, we want this Bhagavatam to be distributed even more. And so, the prices have gone down dramatically. Now, it costs only $300. The same Bhagavatam, I can say it's a better Bhagavatam. The English edition is coming from Germany. It's a German print. It's actually very good quality. And so, better quality for almost half the price. I'm looking 20 years back. That time I bought for $600. Now we can give for just $300. And it is available in English, Hindi, Telugu, Marathi, Tamil, Bengali, Gujarati. So see, all these different languages. So no one can say no. It is such a deal. If it is $300, you know how much it costs? Per volume is about $15, $15 or $16. You calculate. You want to calculate 300 divided by 18. How much is that? 100 divided by 3. 30. No, not that much. Even lesser. 16.6. Can you imagine? It's about $15. This book is just $15. And this is Krishna. As it is mentioned. The Pado Yediyo, Prathamoditiyo, the 2 feet of Krishna, the first and second canto are the 2 feet of Krishna. And the calves are the 3rd and 4th canto. Like that. And 10th canto is the smiling face of Krishna, and the forehead is the 11th canto, the crown is the 12th canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So this is the power of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Bhāgavatam is Krishna, and the entire Bhāgavatam only for just $300. And now we had to convince ourselves and convince others to buy and distribute Bhāgavatam. Distribute Bhāgavatam. And people will happily, if you present it rightly, people will be very happy to take Bhāgavatam. You can tell them, it has all our culture, all the incarnations, everything is in Bhāgavatam. And if someone says, I want e-copy, tell children, if you ask them, everyone has children. So you have children? Yes. They had to touch Bhāgavatam. One devotee was actually telling me, the weekend I had a program and I was distributing Bhāgavatam, and I had a devotee next to me. That devotee told me, probably we want to go for e-book, we may not read, like that. Then this devotee told, my child, he's just growing up, he comes, he picks Bhagavatam and he looks into pictures. And then I had to explain what is the picture about. So he said, I am showing all the pictures of Bhagavatam. And so many pictures are there in 18 volumes. And the kids are actually getting trained right from the childhood, seeing these pictures, developing attraction for them. And when the children ask questions, the parents have to read. It's a good motivation, right? If you don't know anything, how can you answer the question, right? So this is a great opportunity. So we have 10 days. We need at least 30 Bhagavatams to be distributed in any language, doesn't matter. So please think about whom to distribute Bhagavatam. And please distribute Bhagavatam. So that is the final message. So that is a practical message we can take today. One very important message, we can practice detachment by practicing devotional service. So if you take this distributing Bhagavatam as devotional service just for 10 days, everyone, our congregation has maybe 400 or 500 initiated devotees. Assume everyone distribute one Bhagavatam. What will happen? Even one family, 200 families distribute one Bhagavatam each. What will happen? So at least we had to take onus on us and try to distribute some Bhagavatam. And that is glorious for our temple. And Prabhupada will be very pleased. Hare Krishna. Any questions or any comments?
He can give Bhagavatam but can't get the money.
You can give Bhagavatam, can get the money because they haven't understood the value of Bhagavatam. If they understand the value of Bhagavatam, money is not a problem. Our cost is only 300, 500, 1,000, whatever they want they will give. Because that much is there. So our job is to show them the value. When they understand the value, money will come. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu. One, if they are already Krishna conscious or they know, come to temple, they know something about it, one can say this Bhagavatam is Krishna. This is written for the age of Kali. And this is an encyclopedia of spirituality, right? This is an encyclopedia. You want to know about spirituality even for a new person. Do you want to know about spirituality? Look, we have the encyclopedia of spirituality. It has everything. It has everything depending on their interest. Understand their interest, that is there in this Bhagavatam. You can speak on their interest. If they are interested in philosophy, we have philosophy. If they are interested in stories, we have stories. So any topic, everything is there in Bhagavatam. So we can connect to their interest and present. Look, it is there in Bhagavatam. Make sense? Yeah. And if they are interested in culture, they are from the Vedic background, Indian background, they want to know our culture and they want to impart that culture to children. Yeah, this is the one. First you need to have, you need the book. Sits at home, book sits at home. People say, we don't read. Doesn't matter. Actually, it's the biggest preaching. Just having book in itself is a preaching. Place the book in a proper fashion in your living room, where everyone can see. That itself is a statement. That's how it is. Hare Krishna. Any other point? You want to add any point? About presenting Bhagavatam?
I think one thing that really worked for me many times is actually when people see the Bhagavatam.
Ah.
So when, like one time I remember I explained the whole Bhagavatam and the person wasn't impressed, but then I opened the box and he was blown away by the
Yes.
looks of the books and the pictures, and he said, I can't not get this.
Yes. You show them the pictures. So beautiful pictures and so many of them. It is very valuable. In terms of money, it's so cheap. This kind of books, how can you get for $15? Impossible. Yes.
Can create a WhatsApp with the pictures? You can go to the city. You can create one, all the pictures, attractive pictures, and writing about benefits of Bhagavatam.
And also you can...
Then we can forward to many people.
Yes, we can do that. And also if somebody is showing interest, take a copy.
I'm saying from my mouth, maybe the words they can read.
Yes, we can collect some words, compile some words. And also you can take a copy, and if we cannot show the whole Bhagavatam, you can take 1 or 2 canto and show them how it is. Back in the days, devotees used to sell Bhagavatam when there was no Bhagavatam in their hand. Only standing orders. No Bhagavatam, no copy of Bhagavatam. They used to sell hundreds and thousands of copies of Bhagavatam. Not even written many of the volume. They used to sell the entire Bhagavatam. Prabhupada hasn't even translated. So certainly it is possible to distribute Bhagavatam without a copy of Bhagavatam. Be convinced that it's going to actually help them. It's going to help us. Be convinced on that point. Then it will happen. That's all. Okay. Any final questions or any final points? Okay. Yeah. Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Bhadra Purnima campaign ki jai. Save the earth now ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.